Welcome to another episode of Whisper Wisdom. Today, my guest speaker is Scott Rivers. So, we will be talking about during the pandemic and post pandemic, how do we want to do the talent management and the commercial build up. And lastly, we will be touching base on what's our suggestion for younger generation who just out of college to find their first job. So, let's get started. Thank you so much, Scott, for being here.
It's my pleasure, Olivia. Thank you for having me.
So, can you give us an introduction about your background?
Absolutely happy to do that. My name is Scott Rivers. I am the managing partner here at Cerca Talent. We are a recruiting firm focused within the life sciences. That it would include both the research side, diagnostics, health tech. We have dental practices, and we also have an animal health practice within our group. My background is in diagnostics. I spent a number of years in different sales and marketing roles, starting at Bayer, which is now part of Siemens, and then moving on to a division of Johnson & Johnson, where we were focused on developing, novel molecular assays in the field of oncology. And so did that for a number of years. My last position was a global director of marketing in the industry before stepping into recruiting. And now as I look at that, I'm going on 17, 18, maybe even 19 years in the recruiting industry. And I just had an affinity for helping companies to hire commercial teams and leadership for their organizations. And so I found a way to do that as a career and haven't looked back.
Thank you so much, Scott. Like as you mentioned, I think when I went through your background, your industry experience, and you mentioned like you started from Bayer. It's a very large pharma company, I would say, and as a salesperson, right? So, was that your first job, and why did you choose sales at the beginning?
That was my first job straight out of college. And I wasn't on the pharmaceutical side. I was on the capital equipment side, selling into hospital laboratories. And I kind of got lucky, I guess, with that role. I walked into the placement office. I was getting my master's at the University of Arkansas, and I was in the placement office working with one of the people there, and they kept taking positions and talking to me about them. And they had one, and they said, this one is probably not a fit for you. You got to have certain experiences. You have to have this. And I knew I might be good at sales because I read the number upside down that was on the sheet of paper that he was looking at, and I memorized it. I went back to my room because we didn't have cell phones. At least we didn't have cell phones that we were walking around with all the time like we do today. And I called the number. I talked to the individual, told them about my background and that I was interested in the role. And after a number of weeks of interviews, I ended up getting that job. What got me into it, I was working with a good friend of mine at the time who was consulting with a group at the University of Arkansas. And I said, I really think I would do well at sales. She said, let me introduce you to some groups and to some people, and let me try to help you do interviews and mock interviews. And it was going through that process that allowed me to, I think, do well in that interview and ultimately get the job in sales with Bayer. And with Bayer, I moved from Arkansas is really divided into a couple of different areas. You've got Central Arkansas and then Northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas is the home of Walmart, J.B. Hunt, Tyson Foods, very big companies. And then Central Arkansas is the capital of the state. So I moved back to Little Rock in order to take that job. And then over the next 3 years, I think I moved 4 times working for Bayer. I moved from Little Rock to Tennessee, and I was working in Memphis, the Memphis area of Tennessee, and doing well. And then Bayer bought another company, and so they asked me to move to take a bigger market, which was going to be in Dallas, Texas. So I moved to Dallas, Texas. And then after 2 years in Dallas, I was asked to move to New York to the corporate office to take on a marketing role. I did that hoping that I would be there for 2 years and then leave. And 2 years later, I found myself still in New York. And at that time, I had met my now wife. 20 plus years later, I'm still in New York with my wife and 4 daughters, all from now New Jersey. So I'm stuck here. But that was a quick whirlwind of my background.
So you definitely move a lot, and also your company helped you to stay where you're at now.
Now it did. And having the company that I have now allowed me to really be present for my daughters as they were growing up. They're now all old enough that they're on their, not on their own, but they're all close enough to be pretty self-sufficient and going to college and doing things like that. But during the time that they were growing up, I was always available.
Yeah, that's very important too. How did you feel about your whole sales experience? Do you think that actually helped you within your current position to finding the right team members within the commercial team? Because you said like you're actually dedicated to find like good talents within the sales team.
I think having the experience in the industry is definitely a plus. I believe that there's a lot of people who are in recruiting roles who don't have the knowledge that I have and that my team has, just because I was in a lot of the roles that we do recruit for. Certainly being in sales helps you to, understand how to position things, how to present things correctly to potential clients and also to candidates. And most of what we're doing is introducing opportunities to people to determine if it's going to be a good fit for them. And I think a lot of that has to do with positioning it. Certainly there's more behind the scenes of understanding the background of the company and what's a good fit for them culturally. But then the same thing applies to the candidates that we work with. We've got great relationships with a number of candidates that have been built over now almost 20 years. And I think having those experiences and understanding the backgrounds of the candidates and what their needs and desires and wants are can really allow us to do that in a better way.
Yeah, what was the like most memorable experience for you to find a great salesperson to actually settle into a team?
I think it's probably more around commercial build outs. And so, we've done commercial build outs for a number of organizations, and having the opportunity to do that for companies that are just introducing their products into the States is probably some of the most exciting things that we've done. And I could probably name half a dozen companies that we've done that for, that as they are coming into the US, either whether they were UK firms, Swiss, UK, couple from the UK actually, and then France. So 4 different companies where we did start to finish the entire commercial team. And that's an exciting time. Those are fun because then you really start to understand the true culture. You get an opportunity to work with the senior leaders at the organization and make sure that you understand the culture, the products, what's going to be the best fit for them stepping into a new area. And then also we understand or we get to understand what their expectations are. And by doing that, you really get invested in that company and you want to see them succeed. That's a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very exciting from the beginning to the end, like a full cycle. Since you mentioned the culture wise, like I was gonna ask you for when you work with international companies, how do you actually like fast enough to make sure the adaptation is right for the candidates within the culture?
I think cultural fit is something that a lot of people gloss over, and it's really one of the most important things. As you're looking at a company, you've got to make sure that those values, beliefs, the culture as a whole is a good fit for the candidate. Same thing, vice versa, that the candidate's cultural fit is a good thing for the company. And the reason why is because if we place somebody with an organization and they're gone in 9 months, nobody wins. That company's not happy with us. That company's not happy with the candidate. The candidate's not happy with us. The candidate's not happy with the company. Something went wrong.
Right.
And so by spending the time up front to really understand those aspects of the organization, make sure that we know where the values are, what their focuses are, and again, what that cultural fit's going to look like, we can then do the same thing on the candidate side to make sure it's a fit. Because what we're looking for is we're looking for candidates who can step into an organization and be there for a long time. Now, what's a long time? If you go back 15 years ago, a long time would be, I want someone who's going to be here for 5 to 7 years. Today, we're looking for 3. So 3 years is a good run at an organization in today's market. And in 3 years, someone should have the runway to at least be promoted once. And so we're looking for people that can at least, they might not get to that point, but at least they are of the quality that they could be promoted once, if not twice, within a company. What is the runway of that candidate? And those are the things that we look for.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I think cultural fit within, especially international company who's trying to set up a company here in US, it's most important thing for candidates to make sure that they all fit together, not just one way. I think we mentioned previously during the pandemic that sales team is in high demand. That's why I think we were talking about. But however, the actual like front-facing client experience has been switched. How do you like feel about that as in life science? To face to clients and when to set up the team within the pandemic. How hard was that?
I think it was very difficult for most commercial teams. As you stepped into 2020, March of 2020, nobody had a clue what was about to happen. Everything started to lock down, everything started to shut down. And I started looking at the market and looking at, okay, wait a second, we've got commercial teams that are all considered outside sales. They know how to build relationships face to face in front of people, but what happens when they can't get face to face? What happens then? And we actually set up a podcast to try and help people through that time by getting, leaders in the area of inside sales and marketing and commercial excellence and putting them on a podcast for our clients and others in the industry to go listen to. I know it was appreciated based upon the feedback that we got from our clients who were listening to it at the time, because they had not managed teams that weren't able to go in and see their clients. And interestingly enough, Olivia, we're still seeing that. In talking with commercial leaders today, there are still accounts that really don't want people coming in the account. And while some organizations have really pressed it to say, no, we're going in, we're out, we're seeing people, I believe that there's still accounts, especially in life sciences, especially in hospitals, that just, frankly, they liked not having people coming into the accounts. It made it easier for them. It wasn't disturbing the work that they were doing. And so I think that a combination of the two is probably where we get settled at some point. And so for salespeople today, they need an understanding of, how do I get someone's attention when I can't be in front of them? What are the tools available to them, whether that is emails or text or video, which I think would be and is a great tool that can be used today to get in front of anyone. And then you can do that on different platforms. You can do that on LinkedIn. You can do that on X. You can do that on maybe not Facebook as much, but there are ways to get in front of people.
I agree.
And all of that goes back to, and if you go back and listen to any of our podcast episodes, I said this numerous times, marketing became so important during that time. And I think it continues today. Where you're spending your marketing dollars is extremely important to determine whether or not you're getting in front of the right people.
Yeah, it's very interesting you mentioned marketing, because actually I was searching on EY has a research recently showed that in life science segment, 65% of the executives saying that their marketing investments, they're adding more marketing investment to boost customer engagement, just like we mentioned. So I think like marketing, it is on trend too. Do you think you will hire more marketing team members to help companies?
We are working on marketing roles today at senior levels, and I think that's going to continue. I think an interesting point, though, is as I look back over the years and look at the compensation levels of marketing as a whole,
yeah,
I think that's lagging. I think the compensation for marketing people is still lagging. And I think that we're going to start to see that catch up over the next 5 years. We were working on a senior product management role, really more of an upstream marketing position. But the compensation on that role was similar to what we were paying people 15 years ago. And so I believe compensation's an area, especially in marketing, that we're going to see some changes over the next 5 years. And that's because of the importance of these positions.
Like branding and everything, especially if the hospital doesn't want to see you, but your branding, your advertisement is everywhere. And when they are having their break time or when they are available, they can see you and they will think about you when they need like products or services.
That's right. And most people they're not looking for salespeople when it comes to how do I find out about products. It's the same as you and I. If you're looking for something today, you're going to go onto the web and you're going to search it. You're going to Google it. Obviously, it's been like Google's been a verb for a long time now, but we're going to Google it and we're going to go find all of the information that we want to about a particular product or about a particular service or solution. Companies need to have that information readily available. By the time someone talks to a salesperson, most of the time they know what it is that they want.
Yeah.
Then it's just a matter of getting the pricing. And that's the other thing. I think companies today are still reticent to show their pricing online, but very quickly that's going to become more of the norm, just like it does on software or the services that we use today online. If you don't see pricing online, generally you go to the next item, you go to the next website. I believe that's going to happen more and more. So all of this comes down to marketing, all of this comes down to your branding, and so it's going to continue to be important going forward.
Well, since we're like post-pandemic for I think a year or two, and what's your suggestion for newly graduate students, like when they trying to find job, and what's your suggestion for them?
Yeah, great question. And it's interesting because I work with a lot of younger people as they're graduating to help them identify opportunities and identify how to get into a market. And I'm actually putting together a training class for this, and I'm going to make it available for people just to really show them. But very quickly, I think that the model of I'm graduating from college, I'm now going to start sending my resumes out all over, and then someone's going to see my resume and think they can't live without me, and then they're going to hire me. That model is going away because people are inundated with information. I believe that as a candidate, especially a young graduate, you have to stand out. If you're going to try to jump into a sales role, the only way to stand out is to try to make a connection with somebody. So you're either going to use people that you know in an industry in order to help you gain that connection, or you're going to be bold enough to make that connection yourself. And it's going to take a phone call directly to somebody. It's going to take an email directly to somebody. It's going to take some type of an engagement beyond just sending a resume. Because right now, if you're in an HR role for a junior position, you're not getting 20 to 50 resumes. You're getting hundreds of resumes for that. Olivia, you know this, right? I mean, when you post a job right now, you're getting hundreds of resumes thrown at you.
Right.
And then it's a matter of, oh my God, how do I go through all of these resumes and see who's good and who's not?
Right.
And that's even happening more at senior roles today. And that's why we have so many of our clients calling and saying, we're getting so many applicants for the role, but it's still taking so much time to go through this. You know this industry, please take this job. Please send us the top 5 candidates for this position so that we can move forward faster. Take that and put it at a lower level position, an entry level position. It's almost impossible to keep up with it. And so people are getting no response from companies. People are getting no interaction, no further action once they do that application. They get frustrated. So then what? So I take people through a process of, here's the type of roles you should look for. Here's how you connect with the managers for positions similar to this. Here's how you differentiate yourself, and here's how you get in the door in order to have the opportunity to take one of these roles. Probably the best advice I would give is don't just throw a resume out to every job. Be very specific and intentional with who you're sending your information to. Make sure that you're reaching out to people before you just send it so they know to expect it. And I think that will make huge differences to people graduating today.
Thank you so much, Scott. I think that's very important for people who's trying to find job now, especially after pandemic. The job market is still hot, but a lot of people cannot find it because it's entry level. And like you said, younger generation just tend to really send out all the resumes to all companies they could. But it's very important for them to actually be specific and be selected for the position, and also maybe try to reach out who was the job poster so that they can get connected. Because on LinkedIn, you can find it. And also you can find the HR person. So try to get connected with them, and you will get a higher percentage of being hired.
Definitely. LinkedIn is a great tool. I would tell people, as of right now, it is the best tool for professionals to have their information on. So if I'm in college today, I would start early. I would put my information, I would get out on LinkedIn. I would start engaging with people on LinkedIn. I would put my professional persona out there earlier than I think a lot of people do.
Right. Thank you so much, Scott, for your time. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Olivia, thank you so much for asking me. It was great talking with you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can always follow us on Spotify or anywhere you listen to your podcast. And see you next week.